Уважаемые участники, мы продолжаем работу семинара. Dear participants, we continue after work, after the lunch. And let me invite our next speaker. It's a country presentation from Oman, Mr. Hamed Al-Shukeili, Senior Executive Statistics, Information Technology Authority of Oman. Please.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Hamid Nasser Shukeili from Sultanate of Oman. Actually, I'm presenting Information Technology Authority. Here will present Oman experience in ICT access and music survey, household survey. Okay, in this presentation, we'll explore Oman together. Then we'll show you Oman profile in terms of socio-economic indicators. At the same time, then we are going to show you our experience in ICT household survey to measure access and music. Oman actually is one of Arab region countries. Our neighbor is UAE and Saudi Arabia. Actually, Oman is the second largest country in GCC countries, Gulf Cooperation countries, whereas the first is Saudi Arabia. Actually, Oman has a variety of natures, of geographical areas. We have sands. We have coastal areas of 3,000 kilometers from north to south. We have traditional cities and forts, heritage. It's a mix. At the same time, we have autumn season during the winter time. In one of the region, Oman actually consists of 11 regions. So this is in one of the region. It's totally green during the summer from end of June till end of September. Here we have the mountain called Jabal al-Akhtar. It's green mountain, and Jabal Shams. Actually the height of Jabal Shams, which is the highest, 3,000 in the region, which is 3,000 meters above the sea level. It's nice to talk about socio-economic indicators in Oman. Actually, Oman total population is about 4.5 million. The crude birth rate is 33.5 per thousand Omanis. And under 5 mortality rate is equal to 11.6 per thousand live births. Actually, Oman is relieved as most improved nations in the last 40 years as per UN assessment. So in the year of 1970, the under 5 mortality rate was 229, and in 2017 we have only 11.6 mortality for under 5 years. Life expectancy at birth in Oman, you can enjoy the life till 77. Okay, from the date of your birth. So if you have less than this number, just come to Oman. You will enjoy the life. Coming to telecom indicators, mobile cellular subscription in Oman as per December 2018, it's 141 per 100 inhabitants. And regarding mobile broadband subscriptions, we have 90 per 100 inhabitants. Mobile broadband, which is active mobile broadband. And regarding household with computer, as per latest estimation by ITU, it's 93.4. And for internet access with the household, it's 88.6. Individual using internet, actually, it's 80%, according to the ITU estimate in 2018. Coming to our rules and responsibilities, we are related to Information Technology Authority. This entity established in May 2016. Actually, our authority is responsible for the implementation of e-government and for the aim of enhance government services, enrich businesses, and empower individuals. Let us talk about ICT surveys. Actually, we have a demand from nationally. Actually, ITA internal purposes, we are in need of such surveys in order to find an estimate for certain indicators like internet access, individual using computer, internet activities, social media indicators, and so on. So, for the formulation of policies and strategies, we are in need of this with ITA management, especially related to national demand. Also, Oman Vision 2040 depends on such statistics in order to plan for the next 20 years. ICT labs will be during this month. These labs will be for the formulation of new strategies, especially for ICT in Oman. So we have a demand from TRA, actually Telecommunication Regulatory Authority, our close partner, actually in doing in the sector. Actually, also TRC, the Research Council, they request such indicators for the international reports like Innovation Report, Global Innovation Report. Also, researchers in Oman, like students at higher education institutions, they are asking from time to time for such indicators and statistics in order for to do something related to ICT and e-government. Actually, there is also international demand like ITU database. Usually, we update the database on yearly basis. This updates, it's very important for the Global Competitiveness Report and Global Information Society Report produced by World Economic Forum. Also, IT reports, they have the Measurement Information Society. So these collect indicators which we collect through this ICT Access and Usage Survey is very important for international basis. Also like UNDISA for the reports called UN e-Government Survey. There are a number of indicators which is very important to benchmark Oman among the world society. Actually, the first survey we have done during 2010, just by implementing view questions with the census in 2010. In 2013, we have conducted a standalone survey at that time. In 2016, we implement our survey as a attached survey with a household comprehensive survey at that time. So let us now talk about the latest survey which we have done in 2016. We'll go through these items: methodology, questionnaire, and results related to individuals and household, then challenges. Coming to the survey methodology, actually we are following ITO manual for measuring ICT access and usage, which is the guideline for the sector. Actually, we are also covering other indicators related to our interest in ITA. The scope, actually, we target individual aged 15 years and above from all the governorates. So all the governorates are covered. Our sample size is based on multi-stage stratified sampling, and we target individuals and household. For individuals, we interview all individuals aged 15 years and above, and related to household questions, we ask the household, the head of the household, in order to obtain some information related to or data about the household access and usage. The sample size was 5,000, and the number of individuals interviewed as a total from these 5,000 households, 62,644, and the data collection was through face-to-face using some tablet devices to have more accurate data. Survey questionnaire consists of two parts. The first part was household access, where we asked the head of the household to provide some data related to the household access in terms of telephone, mobile, and internet, and reason for not having internet access for those households not having internet access. And question related to individuals, we collect some data related to individuals. By the way, as I mentioned before, we meet all individuals, household members aged 15 years and above, and we ask them about household mobile usage and mobile using activity, mobile owning. At the same time, we ask some questions about internet usage and place and frequencies, about internet activities. Also, we have some questions related to social media using in order to find the trend during the time. Before going to the field work, we have a training of 2 days. We trained the numerators, survey numerators, or interviewers. We trained them on the questionnaires. Also, we simplify IC terminologies. This is one of the most challenges, by the way, we'll mention later on, in order to make sure we deliver the proper definitions related to ICT. Then we explain every validation rules coming in the questionnaire in order to collect accurate data from the field work. Let us go to survey result related to household access. In Oman, at that time we have 86% of household using having internet access. Compared to 2013, it's only 80%. In urban area or localities, the internet access is more than rural. It's 88%. For Omani household, we have 89% compared to non-Omani households, only 18%. Coming to survey result related to the household with internet access, for Oman governorates, we have, as I mentioned before, we have 11 governorates. We found some challenges in some regions that they don't have internet access. Most of those who are answering for the reason for not accessing the internet, there is a lack of ICT skills, lack of time, and low-speed internet in some localities. So now we are going to have some result for individual level related to the usage. Using mobile phone in Oman is very common. 94% of individuals, they are using mobile phone. 91% only owned a mobile phone. At the same time, those who are owning smart mobile phone, 78%. These sort of indicators make sure that the IT, Information Technology Authority, can implement or can encourage people to use e-government services very easy. Related to the internet usage by individuals, 77% at that time of individuals aged 15 years and above. As I mentioned in the previous slides, as an estimate by ITU, it's now 80% as per December 2018. In the urban areas, we have 79% compared to 69% in rural areas. So in regards to a group, as we can see, we have a trend. Most of individuals, they are using internet. By age of 60 and above, only 11% using internet. Males using internet more than females in the Sultanate. Related to internet usage, most of the internet users, they are using internet for social media. That's mean they are using internet through their mobile phone, downloading and streaming videos and video call. It's common in Oman as we can see here, the last very few of people are using online courses, networking like LinkedIn and internet banking, very few percentage. So now we have a certain program to encourage people to use online courses and to join such education system. In regards to reason for not having internet or for not using internet, the reason was no need by 46% of those who are not using internet. Lack of ICT skills only 37%, and as we can see, lack of content is nothing. It is not an obstacle regarding the internet usage with individuals. Social media trend here, as we can see here, WhatsApp is the most common, then YouTube, followed by Instagram. As I mentioned before, accessing to professional social media platforms like LinkedIn and blogs is very few compared to the WhatsApp and YouTube, which is common for everybody. Coming to the challenges here, actually one of the challenges that we have faced during conducting these surveys, first, in order to conduct the household survey, we have to get updated maps or updated list of household. This is one of the most challengeable issue. From time to time, we try to approach the responsible agency in Oman, like National Center for Statistics and Information, to obtain such maps in order to conduct our survey and do proper sampling. Difficult to meet all individuals aged 15 years or 5 years in the household. So in the next survey, we are going to choose only one person. Then we have a data weighting to reflect or to have a representative results for the whole society. Regarding the interview duration, or we have long interview duration for each household member. This is because of many reasons. The first reason is we have related to internet activity, we have 34 choices. This is too much, as we discussed before in Geneva. We have to eliminate such question in order to obtain only a few question about internet usage. Also related to ICT skills, we have about 10 choices, so multiple choices. So to make it short, it's better, or to merge both questions in order to obtain something valuable for comparison. We have some challenges related to data collection, or during the data collection, we are using certain devices. That devices get heated up during the interview because of long interview period. So this is one of the challenges we have faced during the interview. Also, due to some difficulties to reach some localities in Oman because of high mountains, and we're having some localities which are in the empty quarter, which is really inside the desert. So sometimes it's difficult to reach these localities in order to collect certain information related to the access and usage. So we ask for some assistance from military sometimes in order to get us reaching these localities. Difficulty to interview some nationalities not speaking Arabic or English, especially those labor from Asian countries. Our recommendation for the next survey or for all is to have a standalone survey, because having a task survey with other surveys like labor, like income and expenditure survey or comprehensive survey, it's difficult because of long questionnaire with ICT and Access survey. At the same time, other surveys are very long as well. So in order to obtain accurate data and to have high quality results, it's better to have standalone survey. Also to focus on ICT terminologies, because as I mentioned before, survey enumerators find some difficulties in order to digest ICT terminologies and definitions, especially what sort of internet access, is it broadband, is it narrowband, is what speed you have. It has some difficulties in order to be digested by the survey enumerators. So it's better to have a standalone survey and give them a long period of training and pilot survey in order to make sure they are understanding the terminologies. Also, we recommend on national basis to have e-commerce dedicated survey related to e-commerce and child cybersecurity and public interaction with e-government, because including some questions in the survey related to e-government interaction, sometimes it's difficult because of having long questionnaire. So having a standalone survey or a dedicated survey for such purpose is very important to obtain good results. Also, we recommend to have social media statistics and or to obtain social media statistics or trend from administrative data, telecom administrative data. So already our partner here, TRA, they starting to extract some data related to the use of social media, and we hope they find something very beneficial for us, which eliminate or reduce too much effort in the future, inshallah. This is my presentation. Thank you very much, and if you have any question, most welcome.
Thank you very much for this interesting presentation. I think you laid out and outlined a lot of key features in all the works that you've been doing, and very interesting challenges as well that are peculiar, that are special to the case of Oman. So at this stage, maybe we can take a number of questions or comments. Please, go ahead. Microphone.
To cybersecurity, that you said you are interested on, very interesting by the way, the whole work and presentation that you did.
Yeah.
In cybersecurity, I'm worried about one thing is the declaration of subjects, and another thing seems to be the real behavior of subjects.
Yeah.
I tell you one experience. In Spain, then in a similar survey, also it is asked to the people, are you worried about anything, paying with your Visa card in e-commerce, or accessing certain web pages, or dealing with, selling things in the internet? And everybody, almost everybody, I'm exaggerating a bit, says, yes, I'm very worried, But then you later ask them, what measures do you take specifically for your own security when you do a Visa payment, when you enter your bank account, when you this and that? And a very small proportion of people do take a precautious behavior. Hence, this is just to say, as an open question, that it seems to be difficult, really, to measure security concerns and behavior in a consistent way, because it seems like we, the individuals, we are not consistent individually, seems like, right? Because you get really different responses from the declaration, principles, so to speak, and then actual behavior. But, this is just an open question. Thank you. Very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this presentation. I think it was very enlightening and also a very good example of how a survey should be done and could be done. And you mentioned a lot of things that will come up in my presentations. today and tomorrow about how to do a survey, so I'm very pleased with that. You mentioned the long list of activities. I agree, it's long. We are reducing it a little bit, but maybe not enough. But I would also like to stress one thing, in the sense that a lot of countries, people take the ITU manuals and handbook as the law. This is what you have to do. That is not the case. The case is that you should collect the statistics that are needed in your national policy making. We take advantage of that by collecting those statistics as well and make them available internationally. We also request you that if you collect the statistics, please use our definitions so that we can compare between countries. But you're not doing anything for us. You're doing it for yourself, and we are there to help, to facilitate, and to collect your data and present them internationally. But if you think a certain indicator is not of interest to your country, there's no need to submit it to us, so we just don't show your country, and then you think it's not important, that is absolutely fine by us. I have one question as well. I was interested by the social media users using administrative accounts. What is that going into, like, into the inspection of what really happens at how do you collect those indicators? What is the methodology behind that?
Actually, TRA now they are working on this activity, so it can be explained by Raya.
Thank you very much. Regarding estimating the number of users, social media users, we actually did communicate with the operators trying to estimate the numbers. The issue is that when you talk about the user, there might be an overlap between operators, because one user might be using more than one operator services. So measuring social media, yes, we have figures of social media users, but they are not accurate, and we cannot rely on these figures because there might be overlap. So I think that, so at the end we figured out that it's difficult to measure social media users from administrative data. They actually use it, they actually estimate it by there are three ways. I can't recall all the methods, but one of them is by looking at the server. The server the user is using, looking from the traffic, going to figure out or see the server the user is using, and for which social media platform this server belongs to, in order to know which application the user is using. But as I said, it's very difficult. It's not reliable yet, and still we're trying to see if there are other possibilities to have more accurate and precise figures.
Thank you very much for that. Any additional questions or comments, please? Go ahead.
Thank you. Just one addition to the social media question. I think we had a similar experience in Saudi Arabia. So we have two types of informations. One is the number of social media users, and that we currently get from the surveys. So by asking direct questions to the population, okay, or to the sample size. The other thing which we are trying now, we currently collect from the survey, which is the top social media applications, or top visited or top used social media applications. Now, we currently collect from the surveys. However, we believe that those are not reliable, information. That's why we started to think of, requesting it from the operators. Now, we know that from operator side, they know exactly, because they are, as you mentioned, they are tracking the traffic. Okay, from their servers, they know exactly what is the traffic that is going to each, social media site. So we had some responses from the operators regarding the traffic, and we actually, from a regulator point of view, since we have our servers as a government, inside all the national exchanges, or IXPs. So we have some data related to the traffic of those social media sites. So we're trying also to, I mean, we have the same challenge. We're trying to figure out what is the most reliable source for having the social media indicators. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
I remember that when the ITU opened the discussion on OTT and how to collect those kind of indicators on OTT, we didn't do the exercise, but we approached our MNOs in Egypt, and they told us, Saudi Arabia, they can collect this kind of information in terms of user traffic and so on, but we didn't actually collect those type of indicators.
Thank you. Any last comments? Great. So thank you very much for the excellent presentation, and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Karim. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. So I think we move on to the next session. If you don't mind, we'll postpone the coffee break to after the next session. The next session will be on ICT price baskets, services, bundles, collection, methodology, and benchmarking by Inigo.
Inigo, he will be back in a second. He's in
the
bathroom. So if you can put up his presentation already, then...
Yeah, so maybe can you put out the presentation for session 12? There he is. Session 12.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. And now on this session, we are going to be talking about the ICT price basket update that took place in the last meeting. And I will be going through the ICT price basket, how it is constructed, the new ICT price basket. Okay, so we will be talking very briefly about different price comparison methods as there are. Then we will go dig into the basket approach that we are using in the ITU, as well as in many other international organizations. Then we will go to the revision, concrete revision of the price basket that we did, especially for mobile consumption, and then some tariff collection and selection criteria. Please, in any moment of time that you feel you want a question or a comment or anything, please raise your voice. Yep. Well, data collection by ITU has been taking place since 2012. Prices, of course, they are very important, even though they are very complex. We know this in this industry to measure. It is highly important to know what kind of prices and the evolution of prices that there is. So ITU has been collecting for fixed telephony, for mobile voice, for fixed broadband, and for mobile broadband as well data, at least since 2012, even before, right? They are very nice price time series in the MIS report. By the way, what I'm going to talk about is the ITU data collection methodology and consumption basket. But this can be extremely useful in case you don't do it in your own country for yourself to develop your own basket, your own method to compare prices, because this is highly important for anybody, any regulator, right? Now, the monthly prices, I will be more specific on this, but they are expressed both in US dollars and in PPP, purchasing power parity dollars, and also as a proportion of the gross national income or GNI per capita on a monthly basis. But I will be more specific about this. Just to mention one thing, you know that there are many different ways of measuring prices or approaching prices in telecom industry, since we have very non-linear prices here. We have bundles, we have discounts, we have lots of price discrimination devices here. It is very difficult to get a representative price. There are two big methods to do it, but we use the second one, which is the basket approach. But another alternative method, as you know, is the average revenue per minute, be it per voice, be it per SMS, be it per megabyte or per gigabyte. The problem with this approach of the average revenue per minute is the bundling that we were talking before in the previous, a couple of sessions ago. Due to the bundling, the revenues, the operators, they give it to you as a pack. And it is very difficult for them to really distinguish individual revenues for individual services. Hence, all the measures of average revenue per minute of voice, per SMS, or per megabyte, they become really messy. Therefore, I think a cleaner approach is the approach that has been followed by ITU, as well as the OECD, as well as the European Commission, as well as many other international organizations, which is the basket approach. With a basket approach, as you well know, you just define a consumption basket volume, you select the tariffs, plug that volume of consumption to that tariff, and see what kind of average price you get. This is basically, in a nutshell, the approach. So this consumption basket approach allows you, of course, to compare your own country, your own services over time. But it allows you many more things. As you know, there are tariffs that offer you isolated services on individual basis. For example, minutes of voice, mobile, only minutes of voice, and you have very different tariffs. Or only mobile broadband, and you have different caps on these tariffs. But, and a nice thing about this consumption basket approach is, since you're going to be using tariffs, you can as well introduce the bundling as more or less a natural way, as an extension, that makes things comparable over time. And this is very interesting. So you can add bundles, you can add new services to the old basket that you have. And also this approach tends to be very transparent, in the sense that you select the tariffs of the operators and then you plug them in a very transparent manner. You plug them consumption patterns. Yeah, well, since there was a consumption basket for mobile as well as for fixed services already in place, in 2017, it was argued in the ECTI meeting that there was the need to update, very especially the mobile basket approach. I was saying in the presentation on bundling how mobile voice is, voice services, they are moving from fixed networks towards mobile networks. And in fact, you can see all over the world how mobile voice is increasing all over the world, as well as mobile broadband, and by two-digit rates of growth, whereas in fixed networks the voice is declining. Hence, there was the need to revise, very especially the mobile baskets, both in voice and in data consumption or mobile broadband. Since there was this preoccupation, let's update the mobile baskets very especially, there was a subgroup that dealt during 2017 and part of 2018. It dealt with, okay, let's see how we can now update our mobile consumption. And we have three dimensions here. We have voice, SMS, and gigabytes, data consumption, mobile broadband. So why don't we try to gather evidence on average consumption of voice, data, and SMS in as many countries as we can. We can compare this, and based on this evidence, we can construct the baskets of consumption for the world. And the results were really curious. This work was an extremely interesting exercise. It was presented in the ECTI meeting in 2018, and it was approved, also these updates. And it was very interesting to see a couple of things. You can see them in the table. Look at the mean consumption for voice. This is average consumption in terms of minutes of voice for the low income, the low middle income, the upper middle income, and the high income countries. But if you see only the mean, just to pick up one, you will see that in the low income countries, the mean consumption was 81 minutes. And in the rest of the countries, the mean is almost the same, 156, 159, 157. Hence, here you get a very, very easy conclusion. You don't need to know much of statistics to do it, which is, with just 2 points, 2 intervals, I gather the whole world that we have here in a very representative manner. I can define a basket of 150-something minutes, and I pick up all the 3 group countries that I have there. And just with a low consumption basket of around 80 minutes, I can pick up perfectly then the rest of the countries. Hence, thanks to this empirical exercise, it was kind of easy to define baskets, low and high consumption baskets, so that we could be confident we were representing more or less the whole world, more or less, right? So it was, that was very interesting. In terms of SMS, probably this is a trend that doesn't happen everywhere, but yes, in many, many places, and it depends on other factors as well. But SMS all over the world, in general, they are declining in terms of consumption due to the WhatsApp and all these over-the-top applications that we have for communicating, chatting, and messaging. People tend to use less and less and less the traditional SMS. Huh? So the SMS consumption is pretty low and declining. But looking at the figures, look at the mean, right? The mean was 22 SMS, 70, 56, and 95. Hence, with 2 points, you pick up mostly all of the countries on an average of averages basis, right? Although the SMS was not the main focus of attention here in this basket approach. What was more relevant as well is the data consumption. Data, you know that mobile broadband is just rising at 2-digit rates all over year after year and mostly all over the world. It's growing and growing and growing and growing, thanks to many factors behind, right? And we were very interested in seeing what is the average consumption of a standard mobile broadband subscription of mobile broadband per month. And we distinguish between these countries, low income, which, 0.26 means that they are consuming on average, any smartphone that has a mobile broadband connection is consuming 260 megabytes per month on average. The lower middle income, they are consuming 1.7 gigabytes already. The upper middle income, they are consuming 1.3 gigabytes per month of data. And the higher income countries, they are consuming a bit above 2.1 gigabytes per month with the mobile broadband. Again, this tells you that you can define 2 baskets, not more, maybe 3 at the most, and you can pick up very nicely all the means that you have here all over the world, right? So this exercise was very important and very interesting, and it allows to define actually the baskets, because we just went for 2 consumption baskets, the low and the high, which, by the way, I will tell you which they are, and then look only in one thing. The red part, the upper part, red, is the old basket, and the old basket for mobile voice was about 50 minutes of voice and 100 SMS. This is the old one. But now, taking into account that most of the mobile connections, subscriptions, they are sold together in a bundle, voice together with data, we enlarge, we have 2 baskets, the low consumption and the high consumption basket, only 2. The low consumption basket is composed of 70 minutes per month per user, plus 20 SMS, plus 1/2 of a gigabyte, 500 megabytes. And the high consumption basket is composed of 140 minutes of voice per month and per user, plus 70 SMS, plus 1.5 gigabytes per month of data consumption. So this is what we are heading towards. Huh? And only 2 baskets, low and high. If any questions, please do tell me. Huh? There were a couple of other changes as well, which I want to. There were a couple of other changes as well with respect to the previous methodology. If you remember, and there was a lot of discussion on this, before we were to choose what tariff to choose. Well, from the biggest operator, always, and it was basically you were forced to choose a prepayment tariff. But now this changed, meaning that prepayment or contract type of subscriptions, you can choose any of those, the one that is most frequently sold or present in your own country. Hence, this is a change from previous methodology. Previously, you basically had to choose prepayment mode, and now you can choose between the most common modality in your own country, prepayment or contract. Okay. The low consumption basket, I mentioned already, is about 70 minutes of voice, and the high consumption basket is 140 minutes of voice. Before we had only 30 calls. 30 calls, more or less, they approx 50-something minutes per, but you know, now we have 70 minutes and 140 minutes due to this trend of going from fixed to mobile voice. Then the SMS is not that relevant between, we are having 20 or 70 SMS per month, and the data, which is very important here, we are going from at least 500 megabytes to 1.5 gigabytes of consumption. But as you know, another change that we introduced lastly was before the old one, which is the red thing, it was divided. On the one hand, we had a basket for voice, and on the other hand, we were to select another different tariff for data. Now we admit the possibility of combining them in a bundle, because most of these subscriptions are sold in bundles all over the world, and you can choose between the bundle, the add-on pack, or the pay-as-you-go. As far as you always admit that the low consumption is going to be satisfying at least 70 minutes and 500 megabytes, and the high consumption basket is going to be satisfying a need of 140 minutes and 1.5 gigabytes. But you can choose the way of contracting it that fits your country better. In terms of methodology of how to collect data, and this is important once you get your hands into collecting tariffs and data, and this is a work that takes some time, here is a bit the path you should follow, which is select the operator, the highest operator, with the highest market share. What kind of modality, contract or prepayment? Well, choose the modality that is most common in your country, whatever it is. And from then on, go and select the tariff that fits, that satisfies the minimum of the consumption that we established before in the low basket and in the high basket. This, in a nutshell, this is the whole process that one has to go. Huh? If any questions, please do tell me. So, the new price baskets from October 2018 are those. For mobile, we have the data and voice with a low and high consumption. For data only, we keep also, it was decided to keep a data only mobile broadband subscription with a consumption that allows you to consume 1.5 gigabytes from any device, a tablet, for example. And we allow as well a standalone voice subscription that should allow you to make 70 minutes of phone calls and to send 20 SMS per month. So these are the tariffs that are to be collected from the largest operator once you receive the ITU questionnaire. For mobile. And for fixed, there was a lot of discussion, but it was interesting, it was decided at the end it was interesting to keep the fixed broadband subscription price. And now, fixed broadband didn't change much. Fixed broadband is defined in a very simple way. It's any connection that offers you the possibility to navigate or to download information at 256 kilobits per second or more. And since in some countries fixed broadband is limited, then we put a threshold that it should allow you at least 5 gigabytes of consumption per month, if it is not unlimited, which usually is the case, by the way. But so these are the tariffs to be collected from for ITU. And this is very important. And now, yeah, please.
Я хотел задать один вопрос. Скажите, пожалуйста, все время по услугам телекоммуникации главенствовала тарифная политика. Тарифная политика, она основывалась на ценообразовании. Вот по, значит, тем материалам, которые сейчас вот вы докладываете, про тарифную политику вообще речи нет. Ценообразование что? Значит, она сейчас не учитывается при определении тарифов. Это первый вопрос. Второй вопрос. Если такой сравнительный анализ тарифов на услуги, значит, по странам. Если есть, то, значит, какой там, значит, вот есть поучительные моменты. Спасибо.
Yes, thank you. Well, I don't know. I wanted to make clear in the beginning, I talked about two big methods. There are other methods, of course, to measure prices here. One is the average revenue approach, and the other one is the baskets approach. With that slide, only one slide, and I admit it was short, I was trying to rationalize the method that we are using, which is the same as we have been using in ITU since long ago in order to compare prices, which is always we have been using the baskets approach. Before, we had only one basket, this is true, and now we have two, low and high. But these are details that change, but the methodology is kept the same. This is one important thing, and I don't know if I understood your question correctly. And then in terms of the formation of prices, we are not getting into how prices are formed here in terms of market mechanism. We are getting only at the end result of tariffs so that they are comparable. But careful, not only comparable internationally, and this is important, but compare as well for you, nationally, domestically, over time, and this is what matters. And it might be that you in your own country, you may use, not for international purposes, but for domestic purposes, you may be using other baskets, other intensities. Why not? You know, each country, as you have seen, differs slightly, not by that much really, but differs slightly, of course, in its consumption pattern. But you may make your own basket for your own usage, which is very useful. Many countries, they do have it and do follow, right? But for international purpose, and based on the evidence that I tried to show you before, which was a long, very nice study prepared for the ECTI, you know, there is evidence to support with two intervals you are picking up, I mean, 90-something% of the countries for which evidence was available, right? So I don't know if I replied to both questions, but more or less the mechanism, the method is the same as before. The only thing we are doing is updating. By the way, another conclusion of the ECTI meeting was that we should be updating the baskets every now and then, not waiting for 10 years. But we should be updating them because we know the things are changing pretty quickly here.
Я хотел еще уточнить по одному моменту. Получается так, что мы, значит, от ценообразования уходим, переходим в полное, значит, рыночное отношение. Если мы учитывали ценообразование, мы бы обратили внимание на себестоимость продукции, услуг. На себестоимость вообще не обращаем внимания. Только обращаем внимание, может ли в какой-то стране потребители услуг оплатить или не могут оплатить. То есть ценообразование, он уходит в историю, я так правильно понимаю? Спасибо.
Yeah, well, what we, there are two things here. On a domestic level, the fact that operators are free to set their own prices all over the world means that there is a huge amount of tariffs usually available all over the world. Some of them I may be able to pay and some of them not. But I have always some availability of tariffs, even for low consumption, that make me possible to use the service. Actually, this was a bit the idea of the low consumption basket, which, as you can see, is a very low consumption basket. We are talking about, what was it, 50 minutes of voice only? But we, you know, we are getting the end result. We are not trying to analyze here how the price mechanism is formed in each country. This is another very interesting, but another topic. And also in some countries, I don't know if this is very general, there is some kind of universal policy type of restriction, meaning that some services and quantities, they are provided under fixed prices in some countries. In some others, they have other mechanisms, right? But we are not really dealing with this price formation mechanism. We're just getting the end result, the tariff that you observe. Yes, please, Egypt.
Regarding the ranking in the next report, how it will be done? And given that you already collected the prices for 2018 and you will collect the new prices in March for 2019, so how the comparison, it will be the same data collection or it will differ, and how the ranking will be?
I think that for the ranking, we will just rank countries on each of the baskets. There's no overall integration of all the basket into one index or something. So it's just by basket. We will just do the ranking. We will show the countries. It's true that, and there was on the previous slide, it still says October for the data collection. Actually have changed it this year for the following reason. Resolution 131 asked us to analyze price data in MASR. MASR comes out at the end of the year, and we wanted to be as updated as possible, so we decided if we collect the price data already in March, then we can analyze same year price data in MASR. So as of this year, we will always collect in March, and we will always have in MASR the price data information, ranking, analysis for the year that the book comes out. Last year, of course, we collected the data only in October. We just finished with processing the data. We're going to write our analysis. It will come out as a separate report in a couple of months. It will be published on the ITU website, and it will be for the prices relating to 2018. Now, you should always collect the data at the same time of the year, but if you want to make a change, you have to make the change. You will make a change, and there will be a minor break in comparability between the 2018 data and the 2019 data, only because we collected them half a year earlier. That is unavoidable if you want to make a change, and we wanted to make the change so that from now on, whenever we publish data in MASR, we actually have the data for that year, which is a year gaining with respect to the practice that we had before. So there's a slight comparability issue between last year, between the 2018 prices and the 2019 prices, but in the long term, in our opinion, this is an improvement.
I just have also one request in terms of the analysis that you will do for 2018 prices. Could you please analyze if the countries, because I guess that the number of countries who will report the data will be bigger than the analysis that was done in the subgroup of the prices. Could you tell us if we had to report our bundle to describe how much minutes the bundle offer? So could you please tell us if this was the same as the low and the high baskets, or it differs a little bit? Because in our case, Egypt was member in the subgroup, but when we conducted in 2018, we have a system in the bundles. It was called Flexes. I don't know if it's available in the whole world or not. And to apply the high and to apply the low and to apply the high, sometimes this is not representing what is the most used package in Egypt.
Selection, wait just 30 seconds, because I'm getting a bit more into it, to see the criteria for the tariff selection, because this is a very important topic, of course. Yeah, let me skip this kind of evidence that I had, and let's go to more criteria on tariff selection, which, well, you have here in the slides, you will see how a bit the evolution has been in mobile broadband as well as in mobile voice for many countries in terms of US US PPP dollars or divided by the GNI and so on. But let's go to the tariff selection criteria. You have, by the way, you have in the application of the ITU, you have a very nice choose type of windows, so where you can really plug your tariffs. Now, the information, let's go first for the name of, you need the information on the name of the ISP, which has to be the biggest ISP in your country, the exact name of the price plan or tariff used. You have to provide as well the web link, the evidence of the tariff that you are selecting as the best entry tariff. And please also, I recommend you to make a copy of your screen so that all information is really sent to ITU and is very clear. Please do specify if there is any tax and what tax, how much is applied to the tariff. You remember that there are some countries that apply taxes and some others that do not, and any other. On fixed broadband, remember that in fixed broadband prices, we had any broadband offer that offers you at least 256 kilobytes per second, and that allows you at least to navigate with 5 gigabytes per month. If there is a fixed broadband connection charge on top of the usage charge, you should declare it. You should declare as well the fixed broadband monthly subscription charge, declare the speed as well, declare if there is the cap in terms of usage on the fixed broadband. In many countries there is no limit, but in some there is. And declare if there is a cap on the usage, if there is a price, a marginal price. When you excess the usage of the cap, what kind of price, usually per megabyte, they are going to charge you for the excess usage. So you have to declare all these. Now, in terms of selection of tariffs, go only to the largest or the number one operator, mobile or fixed, depending on the issue. Huh? Now, do get all the information on the advertised currency, including taxes, and specify for ITU how much the tax was, if the tax was included in the advertised price or not, all this information. Only, in principle, only residential offers are to be considered, are to be selected. We are not looking so far at business types of offers, only residential, household-oriented. And if prices are very different from cities or from, among regions, then please provide an explanation. Say that, I don't know, in that city, the capital, the price is X, but in non-capital cities, the price is Y. If this is the case, which, it depends, country to country. A bit more. Cheapest plan based on a 5 gigabyte monthly usage and an advertised download speed, of course, of at least 256. We would like to see 12-month plans. I'm talking about fixed broadband. Huh? And please provide information to the ITU if most of the subscriptions in your own country are based on cable, are based on DSL, are based on WiMAX, are based on fiber. Please provide this information so that we know a bit the representativeness of that offer that you are selecting. Yeah. Please do collect a price that is a standard, a regular one, not a promotional one. You know that very often, and there are many marketing strategies here, very often the operator tells you, well, 3 months for free or 3 months at very low price, and then we higher up the price, stuff like that. Please try to choose non-promotional plans that last for 12 months. If there is any promotion of a couple of months, please do write it down very clearly. If the service is bundled together with voice, do specify it. In many countries, you cannot get only broadband at a nice price. In many countries, say for example in Europe, you get broadband together with fixed telephony at very nice prices. Huh? Or maybe not that nice prices, but this is another matter. So if the service broadband, which is what we are focusing on, is bundled together with voice, do specify it. Because if it is the cheapest alternative that respects the cap, it should be provided as the benchmark. Okay, so you might declare a bundle if it is cheaper than a standalone fixed broadband offer. Okay, no limited hours plan. So plans should be unlimited in terms at least of the time of the day of the week that you are using them. These are examples. I don't know if we need to go through them. If you have any questions. I would like to move to mobile cellular. Any questions on fixed broadband prices? The comparison is going to be very simple. Fixed broadband, 256 kilobytes per second, and any plan that allows you 5 gigabytes at least of consumption per month. That's it, okay? And then some minor rules that are important when selecting the tariff from the biggest operator. Well, if no questions, then let me move quickly to mobile cellular indicators, right? Again, the rules are pretty much similar, but apply to mobile world, which is pick up the tariff of the largest operator in your country, the operator with the highest number of subscribers. If prices differ among regions, cities, and stuff like this, pick up the prices applied in the biggest city. Collect, again, in the advertised domestic currency, specify very clearly, because this is an origin of a lot of mistakes, specify clearly if there is any tax involved and how much it is. Prices may be for the prepaid plans, but it depends. If in your country you have more contract type of modality, you choose contract modality. Okay. Do not select promotional plans. Try plans that are available. Even though on the question by Egypt, it may be available, it may not be the most demanded at that moment, because this information is difficult to have, but it must be available, clearly advertised by the largest operator. Well, if there is price discrimination second degree, among volumes, then we will need the price of the 3 first minutes of a call, at least. So please be aware that in the tariff that you are making a snapshot, photocopying it, please, it should be clear if there is different prices per minute, the price of the first, the second, and the third minute, at least. If there is a connection cost per call on top of the price per minute, it should be provided, clearly provided. There was a lot of discussion on peak-of-peak prices. I will not cap into this. If there is peak-of-peak price discrimination, please do state it clearly, so that for the 3-minute call, calculations can be made. Well, more or less, this was for mobile voice. Now I will come to mobile broadband tariff selection, which is mobile broadband. As you know, it can be a 3G, a 4G, any kind of standard that allows you to browse on broadband at a high speed. Again, with the taxes, the same story. Tariffs oriented to the residential user. It may be prepayment or contract depending on the most frequent modality contracted in your own country. Pick up the tariffs only for the largest mobile broadband subscription operator. There is a commitment period. I told you before, try to select tariffs that last for 12 months. They are not only one-shot tariffs, but they are tariffs that last for long, 12 months if possible. The selected plan, you know that the low consumption and implied 500 megabytes and the high consumption implied 1.5 gigabytes. It might be, depending on your country and on your offers, it might be that if you select a tariff that allows you 3 gigabytes, it is much cheaper, for whatever reason, than if you select any other tariff. Hence, do select a tariff that meets the criteria of low and high consumption, but the one that is the cheapest, provided by the largest operator. The validity period should be 30 days, and you may include bundles, of course. We do not take care in the ICT price basket, we do not take care of any other fixed cost. You know that sometimes they require from you an installation or a setup fee or an initial connection setup cost. These things will be ignored, even though we will welcome if you send us information on this, but the non-recurrent fees will be ignored in the ICT price basket benchmarking. And if the package of mobile broadband is cheaper when it is bundled together with voice, do present the bundle price, of course. Well, again, with the non-promotional packs, and that was more or less it. So, in brief, to sum up, new updating of the consumption baskets. In mobile, we had only one, now we have two consumption baskets, low and high. We allow for standalone voice, we allow for standalone broadband, and we allow, and this is new, for bundle voice and broadband services. Here there are a set of rules on how to select the tariff of the largest operator, pick up prepayment or contract, the most frequently contract in your own country, and for fixed broadband, the thing almost didn't change. It's just the data cap that was higher to 5 gigabytes, but the criteria to select the tariff is the same as before. And with this, I think I finish. If you have any questions, please feel free. Yeah.
I think I will speak English, so. The question is regarding the price basket methodology that you talked about. You told that you've studied like a number of countries in order to develop the pattern of the price basket methodology. I mean, the amount of the voice calls, the SMS, and the data usage. In case the country wants to develop their own price basket, what would be your advice? Should they develop their own pattern? I mean, to study the consumption within the country, inside the country, or should they rely on the international data that the ITU provides? This is the first question. And the second one is, what do you think if we, for instance, use the other denominator? I mean, not the GNI in the denominator, but the average salary, for instance. What are the advantages or disadvantages in this case? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Filarus. Very interesting question. On the first one, it is a long topic because in the OECD and the European Commission always comes up these kind of questions as well. If you want to develop your own country comparison, what should you do? Should you rely on the consumption baskets defined internationally like this one, or should you develop your own one? Excuse me for the answer, but I would say both. Honestly, because it is true that even though the changes are not radical in terms of consumption in Belarus, vis-a-vis what we have seen here, there are small changes, significant changes, and it might imply differences in the selection of the tariff and the average cost thereafter. I've done this exercise a number of times in Europe, for Spain, for European countries and stuff, and some results do change, not radically, it's not a revolution really, but some rankings, they do change slightly. So I would, honestly, I would recommend both ways. You know that internationally, these intervals, they are representative, today at least, but you can use them, and also, why not, use other consumption intervals that you know are more representative for Belarus or for any other country. But this is a good question, a long-standing question. And the other one, oh yeah, instead of using GNI per capita, why don't we use average salary? The answer is very simple. Worldwide, we don't have average salaries. Worldwide, we have GNI, GNP, we have these broad measures per capita, and we cannot use any other alternative measure, even though we wish. Yeah.
Yes, I do understand that on international level, this is quite reasonable, but for instance, for the national level.
Be careful in any case with the average salary, because there are a lot of people who are consuming mobile consumption who do not work. Think about the kids, the young, think about the retired people, think about people in unemployment. So I would be also, you know, any measure has pros and cons. You know, it's a very representative measure, of course, for many things, but I would be careful with this average salary thing. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I have the question related with the low usage bundles and high usage bundles. So you mentioned in your presentation that in terms of the low usage bundles, we have, let's say, 70 minutes voice, 20 SMS, and 500 megabytes. Let's say our mobile operator provides, let's say, 200 SMS, 200 minutes of voice, and let's say 100 SMS. In this case, what you will let's say propose us, which tariff plan can we use in this case?
Good one. In principle,
Thank you.
What is to be respected is the, say for the low basket, 70 minutes, 20 SMS, and 500 megabytes. You can do this together with one plain tariff that offers you at least that, or you can add up as well tariffs. You can select a tariff that is not, it offers you less megabytes, say only 50 megabytes, not 500, but you can add to that a plan that offers you 450 megabits additional. And you can add it up in the total cost. And the same goes for minutes. Or else you can get a bundle price. If you find a bundle price that voice together with broadband that offers you everything cheaper, then you can use it. Even if it goes up in the volumes. You know, it might be unlimited voice, unlimited everything, and very, very cheap, ultra cheap. It doesn't exist, I guess, but you know, imagine. Then you can select that to make the comparison. But at the last, the total expenditure has to be calculated based at least on those three consumptions established. Okay?
Пожалуйста, please, there was question. Пожалуйста.
Да, вопрос. У меня был такой же вопрос просто. Например, потребление тот же интернета, например, в каждой стране разное. Получается, где-то, может быть, составляет это, например, 500 мегабайт, а где-то 3 гигабайтов. При заполнении информации, например, да, как вот учитывается, вот как раз-таки вопрос был, вот 70 минут, 20 смс и 500 мегабайт, да, малое потребление корзины. В нашей стране, например, именно такого пакета нету. Есть там другой вид пакета, который может быть высокий или низкий, да. Цена, например, определение цены оператора может быть то, что в цене он заложил, например, не больше минуты, а меньше мегабайт, получается. И при определении нижнего уровня, вот как определяется вот именно за 70 минут 20 смс и 500 мегабайт. Вот внутри одной цены сидит вся минута, мегабайт и смс, да? Как сопоставить цену именно на те показатели, которые вы указали?
Well, first of all, just for clarification, it's not a price what we are getting at, right? It's an expenditure, first of all, which is clear because we are talking about packs of volumes, or voice, data, or both together. So we are talking about expenditure at the very end. This is what we are going to compare, right? We are not talking about unit prices here, first of all. And then secondly, okay, I know that the combinations are multiple. I remember the discussions in the ECTI meeting on this, and you know, the complications and the puzzles that you can make to add up tariffs so that you make up, at least for the low consumption basket. They are multiple, and I don't know all the combinations that can arise in any country. What I can say is, you can add up tariffs of individual services so that at the end you consume at least 70 minutes and 500 megabytes for the low consumption, say, right? So you can add up different tariffs, but you have to make that consumption in order to be comparable with other countries. It may be not very representative in your own country or not, this depends, although I don't see from the evidence of more than 100 countries that we had, there was not that large disparities, really, but there may be, of course. But you can add up different tariffs so that you have to reach those consumption levels that I'm insisting on, at least. And how you do it, This is difficult. And I would recommend one thing, which I'm sure that Martin agrees with me. Please do send all the information very clearly to ITU when selecting the tariffs. Do make a photo of the tariffs or the tariffs, several, that you are selecting with complete clarity. Taxes, prices, brutto, netto, discounts, promos, included services, not included, caps, weekends, off-peak, on-peak, whatever the information it is, do make a snapshot and send it when to the tariff collection, because this is highly important. Otherwise, later on comes a lot of doubts and problems. Name of the operator, validity of the tariff, prepayment, contract. Do send, please, all this information with as much clarity as you can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we have to break for coffee now till 4 p.m. So please enjoy the coffee break. Dear participants, we continue our afternoon session with the country presentation of Belarus, which is about measuring digital transformation in Belarus. And let me invite our speaker, Evgeny Solovyov, Head of Department, Giprosvyaz, Ministry of Communication and Informatization of the Republic of Belarus. Please.
Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги. Меня зовут Соловьев Евгений, я являюсь исполняющим обязанности начальника научно-исследовательского отдела инфокоммуникаций ООО «Гипросвязь», Республика Беларусь. И темой моего сегодняшнего доклада является измерение цифровой трансформации в Республике Беларусь, методика и показатели. В настоящий момент цифровая трансформация, цифровизация, цифровая экономика у всех на слуху. Соответственно, Республика Беларусь, как и многие другие страны, заинтересованы в цифровой трансформации и заинтересованы в тех преимуществах, которые предоставляет цифровая экономика. И для ускоренного развития цифровой экономики необходимо отслеживание внедрения цифровых технологий. Этого возможно добиться путем разработки комплексов показателей в различных отраслях экономики. Соответственно, у нас появилась такая идея, которую поддержало Министерство связи и информатизации Республики Беларусь, в проведении научно-исследовательской работы разработка системы показателей оценки уровня цифровизации отраслей и функциональных сфер экономики Республики Беларусь. Я бы хотел остановиться на задачах нашей научно-исследовательской работы. Это анализ международного опыта цифровизации отраслей и функциональных сфер экономики Республики Беларусь, декомпозиция отраслей и функциональных сфер экономики Республики Беларусь, анализ международного опыта по разработке и оценке показателей цифровизации отраслей и функциональных сфер экономики, разработка эталонной модели цифровой экономики, включающей эталонные модели отраслей и функциональных сфер экономики. И в своем докладе я остановлюсь более детально на декомпозиции и на эталонной модели. Также нашими задачами является разработка показателей оценки уровня цифровизации отраслей и функциональных сфер и экономики в целом. Разработка единой методики оценки уровня цифровизации отраслей и функциональных сфер экономики. И оценка ресурсов, требуемых на реализацию методики. В настоящий момент мы выполняем первый этап нашей работы, промежуточным результатом которым будет разработка эталонной модели цифровой экономики, включающей эталонные модели цифровых отраслей. Цифровая экономика является приоритетом номер один для Республики Беларусь. Дальше я хотел бы остановиться на отраслях и функциональных сферах экономики Республики Беларусь, которые были выбраны нами для анализа. Государственным комитетом по науке и технологии Республики Беларусь была разработана методология комплексного прогноза научно-технического прогресса Республики Беларусь, в котором были определены вот эти 14 важнейших отраслей, в которых заключается 99% валового внутреннего продукта. И я перечислю эти отрасли: наука, энергетика, образование, здравоохранение, лесное хозяйство, сельское хозяйство, транспорт и коммуникации, пищевая промышленность, легкая промышленность, связь и информатизация, архитектура и строительство, природные ресурсы и охрана окружающей среды, нефтехимическая промышленность и промышленность, кроме пищевой, легкой и нефтехимической. Определив эти отрасли, мы перешли к декомпозиции каждой из этих отраслей. А декомпозиция – это научный метод, использующий структуру задачи и позволяющий заменить решение одной большой задачи решением серии маленьких задач. То есть мы берем каждую отрасль, определяем ее основные направления, потом далее, возможно, эти направления мы разбиваем на меньшие направления. В этих направлениях определяем большие задачи. Эти задачи разбиваем на меньшие, еще на меньшие, и приходим к простейшим задачам, которым можно всего проще их решить. И первая отрасль, анализ, который мы провели, это была отрасль здравоохранения. Соответственно, я бы на ее примере хотел бы вам показать, как это выглядит. Да? То есть мы взяли здравоохранение, разделили его на учреждения государственных санитарно-эпидемиологических служб, на лечебно-профилактические учреждения, аптечные учреждения. Далее разделили, например, лечебно-профилактические учреждения на фельдшера-акушерские пункты, амбулатории, поликлиники, диспансеры, республиканские научно-практические центры, стоматологические центры, скорая медицинская помощь, центры репродуктивного здоровья. Мы разбили вот до таких небольших направлений, а дальше перешли к определению задач в этих направлениях. То есть я взял на примере, мы берем каждую из этих учреждений, я взял, например, поликлиники, то есть мы взяли задачи, которые имеются. Да, например, это экспертиза временной нетрудоспособности, оказание амбулаторной медицинской помощи пациентам, пришедшим на прием или на дому. Далее вот это получилось у нас первый уровень задачи. Мы этот уровень спустились до второго уровня, то есть разбили задачу на оказание амбулаторной медицинской помощи пациентам, пришедшим на прием, и пациентам на дому. Далее мы разбили, например, тоже оказание амбулаторной медицинской помощи пациентам, пришедших на прием, на записи, выдачу талонов и прием к врачу, выдачу медицинской карты пациента, оказание медицинской помощи пациентам, выписка рецептов на лекарственные средства, выдача и оформление листка нетрудоспособности. Да? Вот мы получили вот эти вот простейшие наши задачи, и теперь мы эти простейшие задачи цифровизируем. То есть мы определяем, какими услугами можно цифровизать эти простейшие задачи. Да, то есть эти услуги довольно-таки уже популярны, как и в Республике Беларусь, как и в многих других странах. Да? То есть мы берем записи выдачи талонов на прием к врачу. Это услуга интернет-регистратуры. Да? Вы можете спокойно зайти в интернет и записаться к врачу, никаких проблем нет. Выдача медицинской карты пациента, электронная медицинская карта, выписка рецептов, электронный рецепт, выдача листка нетрудоспособности, электронный листок нетрудоспособности. Ну, в принципе, все понятно, все легко. И я вот просто показал наглядно, что мы имеем. Вот после всего этого анализа мы составляем такую табличку, в которой мы показываем все наши уровни задач, также цифровой технологии, цифровое решение этой задачи, и также пишем полезный эффект от внедрения этой цифровой технологии. То есть этот полезный эффект мы будем использовать в дальнейших этапах для определения весовых коэффициентов наших показателей. То есть чем больше эффект, соответственно, тем выше весовой коэффициент. Далее мы переходим, имея вот эту декомпозицию отрасли, а также проанализировав международный опыт цифровой технологии именно определенной отрасли, да, например, здравоохранения, а также проанализировав внутреннюю ситуацию в стране, мы переходим к эталонной модели цифровой отрасли. То есть это модель, при которой все простейшие задачи отрасли решаются при помощи современных цифровых технологий. То есть, как бы эталонная модель цифровой отрасли – это то, к чему мы стремимся. Я очень люблю сравнивать эталонную модель цифровой отрасли с горизонтом. То есть это та вещь, к которой мы идем, мы видим, стремимся к нему, но никогда не можем достичь. То есть она должна всегда изменяться. То есть появляются технологии, максимально быстро развиваются. Появляются новые технологии, соответственно, нам уже нужно менять модель цифровой экономики. И то есть мы стремимся. Соответственно, чем больше мы стремимся и хотим достичь этой эталонной модели цифровой отрасли, тем лучше мы развиваем цифровую экономику. То есть у нас такая позиция. Да, и опять же, я хотел вот на слайде представил вот в таком виде эталонную модель цифрового здравоохранения. То есть у нас, конечно, в работе она выглядит по-другому, но для наглядности я ее представил в таком виде. То есть в той табличке, которую я вам показывал, мы определили услуги, цифровые услуги. Да, и вот они здесь перечислены как интернет-регистратура, электронный рецепт, онлайн-наблюдение за пациентом, онлайн-аптека, онлайн-консультат, удаленный санитарный надзор, IT-лекарства, дистанционное проведение предварительной диагностики, телемедицина, тактильный интернет и другие. Я показал, сколько влезло на слайд, да? И получается то, что в этой эталонной модели мы используем как и те технологии, которые уже есть в настоящий момент, то есть уже используются, так как и технологии возможного будущего наши, да, особенно если мы говорим про тактильный интернет, да, пока что это только, грубо сказать, слова, да, то есть просто такая идея, но по сути мы уже хотим как-то это учитывать, то есть в начальном этапе, да, мы берем тоже, будем брать показатели, связанные с тактильным интернетом, мы их просто не будем вначале учитывать, то есть мы весовой коэффициент поставим 0, но как бы в будущем мы будем рассчитывать то, что при развитии инфраструктуры, при появлении АМТ 2020 и более высоких поколений, скорее всего, эта услуга будет востребована. И мы уже тогда, то есть наша эталонная модель, она будет масштабируемая, так как и наши показатели, как и наша методика. Далее, имея эталонную модель цифровой отрасли, вот, которую мы получим на первом этапе, мы переходим к показателям оценки уровня цифровизации отраслей. То есть, имея четкую эталонную модель, к чему можем стремиться, мы, в принципе, не прилагая больших усилий, мы можем разработать показатели оценки уровня цифровизации отраслей. Показатели оценки уровня цифровизации отраслей и функциональных сфер мы будем разрабатывать на втором этапе, поэтому пока я могу только поделиться теми планами, которые мы имеем в настоящий момент. Да? Ну и немножко остановиться на показателях. Да? То есть, ну, соответственно, для того, чтобы нам разработать сами показатели, нам нужно наименование этого показателя, метод сбора показателя, алгоритм расчета показателя. Собирать показатели мы планируем либо при помощи поставщиков услуг, с которыми можно связываться, которые будут предоставлять информацию, либо при помощи опросников для организаций. Да? Если бы, например, мы брали здравоохранение, то, например, поликлиники. То есть узнать, насколько у них уже продвинутые технологии, используются, не используются. Да? В алгоритме расчета показателей я бы хотел остановиться на том, что мы хотим все наши показатели, будем стараться привести к доле. Я немножко позже расскажу, почему именно к доле. Да? Наши показатели оценки уровня цифровизации отраслей лягут в государственную программу цифровой экономики и информационного общества на 2021-2025 года. То есть поэтому вот мы как раз разрабатываем это в этом году, чтобы потом эти показатели включить в государственную программу. На следующем стадии вы видите моделирование методики вычисления обобщенной оценки. Да, то есть мы имеем показатели в отрасли. То есть, опять же, вот как я и говорил, то есть нам нужны долевые показатели, потому что мы будем определять одни показатели в каждой отрасли и потом выводить обобщенную оценку. То есть у нас будут отрасли со своими показателями, отрасли со своими показателями и обобщенные оценки. И мы хотим в дальнейшем эти обобщенные оценки сравнивать. То есть чтобы они были сравнимы между собой. Мы хотим это сделать для того, чтобы, например, было какое-то стимулирование отраслей. Да? Либо, например, стимулировать те отрасли, которые максимально развиваются, чтобы они еще больше развивались. Либо наоборот, смотреть те отрасли, которые отстают в развитии. И чтобы то есть больше деньгами стимулировать эти отрасли, чтобы они догоняли остальные отрасли. Да? Здесь же опять я показываю. То есть у нас есть отрасль, из отрасли выходит обобщенная оценка этой отрасли, далее эта информация собирается, а у нас в Республике Беларусь планируется создание нового министерства цифровой экономики, соответственно, которое, скорее всего, займется сбором этой информации. И также потом, после сбора этой информации, будет какой-то документ, который будет выпускаться Национальным статистическим комитетом, который можно будет оценить, посмотреть, проанализировать. На последней слайде я хотел вам представить формализацию методики вычисления обобщенной оценки. То есть это то, как мы планируем разрабатывать нашу методику. Здесь я бы хотел остановиться на том, что мы больше всего хотим уделить внимание, это весовым коэффициентом и коэффициентом корреляции. Соответственно, как я считаю, это основное в разработке методики, и те же самые весовые коэффициенты, как я уже говорил, мы хотим сделать масштабируемые, чтобы мы могли их изменять. Соответственно, если есть в данный момент необходимость этого показателя, соответственно, весовой коэффициент становится выше. Если нету, то он становится ниже. И, соответственно, также мы хотим учитывать и корреляцию показателей между собой. Просто один показатель может влиять, даже в разных отраслях или в разных направлениях, может влиять на рост цифровой отрасли или цифровой экономики. Соответственно, нам нужно определять эту корреляцию, и при помощи определения этой корреляции мы сможем точнее сформулировать нашу методику и нашу обобщенную оценку. В принципе, у меня все. Могу ответить на все ваши вопросы, а также предложения, так как мы только разрабатываем проводим эту работу. Если есть какие-то вопросы, предложения, я постараюсь выслушать и ответить на все вопросы. Спасибо.
Да, пожалуйста, первый вопрос. Россия.
Спасибо за презентацию, это было очень любопытно. А правильно ли я понимаю, что пока что систему показателей вы еще не сделали?
Да, мы сейчас проводим только эту работу.
И правильно ли я понимаю, что фактически планируется создание для каждой отрасли своей системы показателей специфических?
Да. В каждой отрасли будет комплекс показателей.
Вы думаете, ваша статслужба справится с таким количеством показателей?
Это интересный вопрос. Но я надеюсь, что да, потому что я считаю, что от разработки таких показателей, комплексов показателей, при помощи них реально можно будет видеть развитие цифровой экономики. А цифровая экономика в настоящий момент – это основа.
С этим сложно поспорить, но, честно говоря, я не знаю, как в вашей стране, но у нас обычно с таким большим количеством показателей возникают сложности. Обычно все стремятся как-то унифицировать этот процесс с тем, чтобы сделать какую-то систему достаточно компактную, но универсальную.
Ну, понятно, чем компактнее система, тем
тем она меньше,
приближенный результат, да, тем глубже.
Каждую отрасль.
Тут надо найти, получается, равновесие. То есть я думаю, опять же, мы вернемся к этим вопросам, я уверен, вот когда мы будем выполнять второй этап, и будем определять то идеальное количество показателей в отрасли, которые будут и влиять на развитие цифровой экономики, а также будет возможность их снимать.
Спасибо.
Пожалуйста, please, any further questions? Please, пожалуйста, Казахстан. Пожалуйста, микрофон.
Означает ли, что это будет централизация планирования экономики?
Глубокий вопрос. Я думаю, да.
Скорее даже
нет. Но я считаю, что да, у нас будет централизация планирования экономики, соответственно, потому что особенно цифровой экономики, да, на которую мы переходим, разработка комплексов показателей, при помощи этого комплекса показателей мы сможем развивать нашу экономику более эффективно и, соответственно, развивать страну в целом.
Да, спасибо, Евгений, за очень интересное такое представление научной работы. Конечно, значит, на первый взгляд вроде бы все продумано. Секторы экономики, значит, показатели, которые будут в этих секторах экономики, потом, значит, дальнейшая корреляция. Но в итоге, значит, для страны, значит, количество показателей, они должны быть интегрированные. То есть каждая отрасль сама по себе вот теми показателями, значит, серьезными, которые, значит, вы вводите, они, конечно, должны быть там. Потому что оценку сектору экономики, значит, дают его показатели. А в целом по стране, когда вы будете подводить итог, вы должны уже использовать коррелированные оценки. Те оценки там остаются в секторах экономики. А для самой страны она должна быть продумана, коррелированные оценки, и она должна показать, значит, как эта совокупность оценок дальше будет влиять на валовый внутренний продукт. И вот во всей этой задаче, конечно, подход интересный. Значит, и во всей этой задаче, конечно, для каждого сектора экономики, если мы цифровизируем его, должен быть фундаментально проработан вопрос безопасности. Фундаментально должен быть проработан. Иначе вы, конечно, результаты можете не получить. Об этом, значит, вы ничего не сказали. И, значит, вопрос такой, значит, и какой период вы хотите завершить, чтобы потом, значит, послужит окончательный, значит, вариант ваших разработок. Спасибо.
Спасибо за вопрос. Мы выполняем эту научно-исследовательскую работу в этом году, и, как я сказал, ее результаты лягут в основу государственной программы на 2021-2025 года. Соответственно, к 2021 году, который будет разработан этот комплекс, полностью утвержден показателей, и после будут собираться эти показатели, и, соответственно, я думаю, через пару лет мы сможем потом их проанализировать и уже именно, как сказать, заняться более глубоким анализом. То есть, по сути, в настоящий момент эти показатели у нас не снимаются, соответственно, их нужно разработать и плюс еще время их собрать. И чтобы потом уже хотя бы прошло несколько лет, чтобы мы смогли их потом проанализировать.
Спасибо, успехов.
Я хотел, да, еще забыл про безопасность, вы спросили. Но именно я с вами полностью согласен, что безопасность, особенно в мире наших цифровых технологий, это вообще основной вопрос, и безопасность должна идти на один шаг впереди от развития цифровых технологий. Но я бы просто сказал, что, наверное, в этой это и так научно-исследовательская работа очень глобальная и очень большая по объему. Соответственно, мы просто не можем в этот момент еще заняться и безопасностью. Потому что все-таки мы здесь, если говорим про цифровизацию, мы приходим к разработке показателей. То есть результат нашей работы – показатели. А потом уже, да, если именно возвращаться к цифровизации и к развитию цифровой экономики, то, конечно, безопасность нужно учитывать и нужно работать над этим. Спасибо.
Ну, я думаю, что информационную безопасность надо параллельно вести.
С разработкой показателей? Или параллельно с цифровизацией?
Параллельно с цифровизацией.
Нет, я с вами согласен. Говорю, просто в этой научно-исследовательской
работе тоже.
Просто в этой научно-исследовательской работе мы просто не затрагиваем вопрос. То есть у нас также другие есть работы в Республике Беларусь по цифровизации. Там вопросы безопасности затрагиваются. Просто здесь мы именно мы используем цифровизацию, чтобы разработать качественно показатели. То есть результат работы показателя. Спасибо.
Да, можно я дополню? Я неплохо знаю экосистему Республики Беларусь, и просто вопрос информационной безопасности, кибербезопасности по другим ведомствам находятся, и я думаю, это причина, почему они в этой работе не рассматриваются, в том числе. Да? Please, any other questions? I don't see any. So, thank you. Спасибо большое. Thank you very much. We're about to continue. As I said earlier, today we will continue for 1 more hour, so we're planning to finish at 5:30. And let me invite my colleague Martin Schaper, Senior ICT Analyst, to talk about getting ICT data through service, coordination and survey planning. So we're trying to cover some of the topics planned for tomorrow, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Farid. Good afternoon once again, and we're going to shift the focus a little bit now from the supply side to the demand side, and we're going to talk about surveys, household surveys. And we already had a very good presentation from Oman, touching on quite a number of issues that I will be covering as well this afternoon and tomorrow morning. It roughly goes, I will start talking a little bit about the national coordination and the survey planning. Then I will continue with an overview of the various household indicators, focusing on those that are in the IDI and that we need for the SDGs, but also touching upon all the other ones. And then after that, I will say more about how to do a survey, the design of the questionnaire, the processing of the questionnaire, the dissemination of the data, etc. So, but we're going to start with coordination, because that is actually an issue that is quite important. It has been discussed already at the ITU, at WTIS, the one in 2012 when it was still called WTIM, and in 2013. And there was a high-level panel debate that triggered a large debate among participants. And the recommendations that came out of there, they are not new. They're from all times, but the recommendations were that countries should put in place coordination mechanisms. The NSOs, the National Statistical Office, should play an active role. The recommendation is that countries include ICT statistics in their national statistical system, the NSDS. This is often not the case, and in many countries, but it would be nice if it is the case, because that raises the importance of ICT statistics and with that the available funding for it. ITU should develop guidelines and models for coordination mechanisms, so I will talk to you about a few in these presentations, and it needs further discussion. That's why we have put it on the agenda of this type of meeting, and we discuss it more often. So there are a number of stakeholders in the statistics systems. There are the producers, there are the users, and there are the information providers, where the information actually is coming from. So on the producer side, we have the ministries, the line ministries, we have the regulators, and we have the statistical office. On the user side, I mean, there's many users. To start with, and I think it's the last box, but it really should be the first box, it should be the policymakers in the country. That should be goal number one. The policymakers, the regulators, they need these statistics also for their own policy strategies, etc. International organizations, we piggyback, and we also have an important role, because everybody wants to compare themselves to other countries, to the neighbors, to the top performing countries. So we need to use the information that is collected in similar ways, using similar definitions, so that we actually can provide the information. Then we have academia, consultants, analysts in general that need the data. We have industry players, private users, and other businesses that all use the statistics. And then the information comes from a variety of sources. It comes from households, individuals, businesses, schools, government institutions, of course also from providers, internet providers, operators, etc. So there's a variety of information providers that play a part in the system. So why do we need to coordinate? Of course, the objective always is to produce high quality official statistics. ICT statistics are cross-cutting, and I showed you the stakeholders. There are many stakeholders, so they should be coordinated to avoid there's duplication of effort, or that there are gaps in the information being provided. And we also see, and I may come to that point later on, that there's more and more interest in ICT usage data, especially since it has been included in the IDI. And often we see regulators taking an interest in the data and either doing surveys themselves or working together with the NSOs in doing a survey. And there it's strongly recommended that the two work together, because the NSO often doesn't have the money or the mandate or both to do an ICT survey, which the regulator or the ministry does have, but the NSO has a lot of the knowledge and experience and information that you need to do a survey. If you want to do a sample survey, you need to draw your sample from somewhere, and the NSO is the right place to go for. So I mentioned a few points. You need to coordinate to close the data gaps, to eliminate duplication of work, so that you don't have and the NSO and the regulator doing a survey, which leads to conflicting data and statistics. It promotes comparability, because we're all on the same page. We all use the international definitions. It provides clarity also to the providers of the data, and overall it will be more effective. It's also one of the fundamental principles of official statistics, principle number 8, that says coordination among statistical agencies within countries is essential to achieve consistency and efficiency in the statistical system. Now, coordination can take many various forms, and you should find the form that suits your country needs and your country's institutional setup as well. You can form, for example, a national statistical coordination body that hangs above all the other bodies and that makes sure that there is coordination. Or you can set up an interinstitutional committee or working group with people from the different ministries and agencies involved. Less formal is a multi-year planning, and then we have something that we call information society observatories, which is more like an aggregator, places where they put all the information together, and they can play a role also in coordinating. So the strongest form is a national statistical coordination body that can be established by a statistical law. It's usually the statistical office, the NSO, that is the main coordinator, that has the lead role, and that coordinates and that involves all the places where there is statistics being collected. And it can be satellites within ministries. For example, the health ministry can have a unit that collects health statistics. Same for education, agriculture, so that needs to be coordinated to make sure that information is harmonized and not collected more than once. Such a committee can also establish working groups to discuss methodologies on a specific topic. So that could be health, like I said before, and of course that can be ICTs, which is what we're talking about here. So you can have National Statistical Coordination Body that sets up a working group called an Interagency Committee on ICT Statistics. And that committee makes sure that all the information that is needed gets collected. And after that being sent to places like the ITU, like UNCTAD, like DESA, all the places that collect international ICT statistics on a specific topic. So an interinstitutional committee is a little bit less institutionalized. It's just a group being set up by ministries, for example, and it can bring together representatives from ministries, NSOs, regulators, etc., that decide to work together as a group to provide the information. Multi-year plans. Most national statistical plans are governed by a multi-year program for the production of official statistics. And that covers a variety of domains. And it's important that ICT is included as one of the domains. It's not always the case, but if you get it on the national statistical plan, what I said before, you raise the importance and you raise the amount of resources that can be allocated to it. Then there are observatories. There is, for example, in Spain, the National Observatory for Telecommunications and the Information Society. The objective of such an observatory is to centralize all ICT indicators and disseminate them through one portal. And of course, once you start doing that, you start noticing that there are gaps, that there are duplications, that agencies that should be working together are not working together, or even working against each other. So they may take the role of coordinator at the national level. Spain is an example. So it's short what I presented, but it's important. And tomorrow when we do the roundtable on household statistics, I would like you to also to think and to report about the coordination that's going on in your country. Or if there's no coordination, it may lead you to consider coordinating. So that's a point, that's one of the points that I would like to address tomorrow in the roundtable. If there are questions at this point or at any point, just feel free to intervene and ask or comment. If not, I will continue with survey planning. Because a survey, it's not an easy thing to do. It's time consuming and also financially usually quite expensive. So you need to be very careful in planning it correctly so that you can stay within the limits of your budget and that you also produce the required output within a specific time frame, because if you let it slip, it can actually slip for quite a long time, or you may end up with data which is of low quality, or you may up with data that you are unable to process because there are some mistakes made during the process which doesn't lead to the correct output. Now it says surveys are usually done by the NSO and assumed as such in this presentation. This is an old presentation that I modified and adjusted a little bit. This is what also comes out of the manual. More and more we see that this is not necessarily the case. More and more we see regulators conducting surveys, sometimes with the help of NSO, sometimes without the help of the NSO. So this is not entirely true. So this is also something that in the roundtable would be nice to address. A good practice is that that confidentiality is assured. You can include it in the law, in the Statistics Law, the Statistics Act, so that when you do the survey, that people who respond to the survey, you can guarantee them that their information is used in a way that their privacy is not being, that their privacy is protected and that their confidentiality is protected. And that it complies with all the statistical laws in the country. Survey methodology must be scientific and based on probabilistic sampling. And this is a very important point, and I will spend a little bit more time on that tomorrow. Over the past few weeks and months, I've spoken to a number of countries specifically on this issue. And this is why it's important to work together with the NSO. Organizations start doing surveys that don't have the long experience in doing surveys, so they do a survey and they end up with the results, and then they have to report the results to the ITU, and the ITU doesn't want to know the results of the survey. We want to know the results representative of the whole country, or at least the part of the population covered by the survey. So we come back to that. So let's say you cover all people 10 years and older, then we don't want to know that out of the 10,000 people that you sampled, 9,000 used the internet. No, we want to know when you extrapolate that to the total population of 10 years and older, how many of those you estimate, because it remains an estimate, were estimated to use the internet. So this is a specific skill, specific knowledge that can be explained, but you need the support and the cooperation of the NSO. Survey planning, necessary for survey success and cost minimization. So, to start with, you need to make sure that what you collect is what you want to collect, and also that the people you work with together and the other stakeholders, that the stakeholders I showed in the beginning, that they're on one page and that they also can provide their input, and they can maybe ask you to include something that you didn't think of. So think about the consultation mechanism required. Set up a stakeholder workshop, for example, at the beginning of the process. Make sure that you always think about why you're doing this. So a statistical statement on what you need to collect, what you want to collect, for which population and which coverage you need the data, and what the uses of the data. So really the objective and the purpose of the survey clearly written out. So in all the steps of the process, you keep in mind why you're doing this. And also think about this not as being a one-off activity, but think about this as the first, or maybe it's the second or the third or the fourth in a series. So always keep in mind that you want to repeat the survey, and you want to make sure that what you collect now and what you collect next time and the time after, you always find a way to compare that to each other, so that you can also monitor progress over time. So when you plan the survey, of course you have to think about what type of survey. Is it going to be a standalone survey, or is it going to be a few questions in an already existing survey? So this is part of your planning. How much resources do I have, and can I insert a standalone survey in the statistical plan or not? Adhere to existing statistical standards, of course, so that we can compare with other countries, and also that you make sure that the data you collect is relevant and consistent. We have a lot of material on that. We have the handbook, there's the core ICT indicators, there's model questions. We're going to revise the handbook and make it even more user-friendly than it is now, and update it for everything that has happened in the last few years. Of course, you always have to keep in mind the budget you have available and the funding of the survey. And that, of course, has an impact on what you can do. Ideally, you would like to survey every single person in the country, but realistically, that nobody can do that. And plan the survey time frame. I keep on clicking until something happens. And sometimes nothing happens. Something happened. Planning on survey. So think about the universe of the survey. Are we covering the whole country? Are we covering all provinces? And make sure that you also, if you want to have the results by each of the areas in your country, that you make sure that your sampling is correct for that, and that you can actually produce the population totals for each of the areas. What is the target population? Are we covering everybody? Are we covering all households except the military, for example, because it's difficult to survey them or to find them, or except people living in institutions, like in old age houses? Are we covering all people over 5 years old or over 10 years old? Maybe not people over 74, or maybe you do. So this all has an effect on your sampling strategy, and we'll come back to that probably tomorrow morning, and how you do your sampling and your selection of people. Think about beforehand the information you want to collect. So which are the answers that you're looking for? And once you know the answers, you can ask the questions. Once you know the questions, you can write them down, and then you have to figure out if you're not asking too much. You also have to think about the length of the questionnaire, the respondent burden. Maybe some of the information you don't actually need to ask because it's already available from other sources. You know, income brackets is already known, and maybe you want to know if a household has electricity, because otherwise they cannot use the internet, but maybe that's already part of another survey, so you don't need to ask that directly in the survey. It also depends, of course, how well you can link existing surveys with your current survey. So for that, you need to have identification of the units. That's also something that the NSO usually does or can do, but maybe not the regulator, because they don't have the right to, they don't have the required information. Very important as well, think about the tables that you want to produce as final output. Because if you know that, then you can work back to the questions you need to ask to be able to fill out those tables. And for example, if your objective is to fill out the ITU long questionnaire, well, then you have your tabulation plan, because you just take the ITU long questionnaire and you see all the questions that are needed and all the breakdowns that are needed, and then you know from that on you can work backwards to the survey you're going to do. Now, that's not my recommendation that you do that, because you need to collect the information that is relevant and important to the policymakers in your country. You can use the ITU long questionnaire as an inspiration for that. When you conduct the survey, you're going to need a number of staff. You're going to need database producers and managers. You need to do survey management. You need to develop the computer systems. You need to maintain them. Ideally, you would be doing interviews. I spoke with some people about doing telephone interviews. Telephone interviews have a lot of disadvantages. The advantage is that it's relatively cheap, and otherwise there's only disadvantages. Working with interviewers is clearly the best way of doing things, except that it's very expensive, because you need to hire interviewers and need to go around the houses and find the people, and people are not at home, so you have to come back maybe 2-3 times. So there's a lot of time and effort involved in that. But if you use interviewers, of course you need to hire people that understand the survey, that can do the survey, that understand the questions. Also people that are nice and they can talk well, and they can talk and make people feel at ease. Because if you come in and you start saying, now you have to tell me this, 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 and this, and then people say, bye, I don't have time for you. So it's also a skill to conduct the surveys and talk to the people. Then, of course, the data need to be entered. So how are you going to do that? Are you going to give the interviewers tablets so they can enter it directly in a system so it can be uploaded directly? Are you going to use paper forms, which has the difficulty that then you have to convert the paper form into something that is database readable, or you have to type it over. Once the data are in the system, there's going to be mistakes, so you're going to need to do some data editing, data manipulation, and you're going to write a report. For all those items, you're going to need people to do that, and you have to hire the right people. I keep on click, click, click. So here are some more hints about how to select your people and how to train them. You don't have to select everybody in one go. You can start with the first bunch of people you're going to need. You start with the database developer, and the interviewers, you only need to hire them once you have done the whole preparation process. I think this is all advice that is very good. Training, the last point is important as well. Training should be supported by training and procedure manuals so that it can be reproduced. Also, when you're doing interviews with interviewers, they should note down everything that happens, also all the problems encountered, issues that were wrong with the questionnaire, or that the people had difficulty in responding, because it's not the fault of the people, it's your fault. So you have to make sure that next time the question is easier to understand. So survey management and budget, as I said, it's gonna cost money. It's not cheap. But even if you spend a lot of money, you're not guaranteed good results. So you have to make sure that you use your resources to the right extent. And so the planning needs to be good, the training needs to be good. So I'm just repeating things I said already, but it's very important. I found a way. I have to point at the roof. So more hints about the budget. So don't underestimate your budget. Think about all the costs. Think about overhead as well that is needed. The supervision time of supervisors, the printing of the material. Make sure you have a little bit extra in case you go over budget. And try to estimate everything beforehand. And of course your budget depends on how deep you want to go, how precise you want to be, how much information you're going to collect, how many breakdowns. The more breakdowns you want, the bigger your sample needs to be, the more interviews you need to do, the more cost it is. So those are all, it's easy to say, but you have to keep on remembering that when doing the survey. Here we go. Now I have a lot of slides that are copied from a manual. It's an old manual, but it's still completely valid. It's a UN manual that lists down all the steps needed in developing a survey, and then it does this also do, then it also gives you the estimated amount of time, how much time does it cost of a certain person, how much does such a person cost. So you multiply one by the other, you have the salary, then you need to think about the equipment. This is a plan. If you fill this in, you get an idea about the final cost of it. So you have the planning and preparatory activities. I'm not going to go to this, you can't even read it, but it's all in the slides. So I keep on clicking until something happens. All the steps in the initial phase. Here you can see also the pre-testing. We'll come back to that also tomorrow, which is important. This is all the preparatory. So then the second point is field operations, training of field supervisors, training of interviewers, the data collection and the quality control, the field administration, And then you add it all up and you have your field operations. Then we go to the data processing part. So the system plannings, the programming, the coding, the key to disk operations. This shows you how old this is. That was transferring it into a database. Of course, we have more modern ways of doing that now. But the idea remains the same. Once all the data is in the system, you start using, you can start producing your output. So you review the data, you create your tabulation plans, you analyze your data, and then we can click again. And that's the whole thing. So here there's a time frame for survey steps. Well, if you take all of these as it goes, you need more than a year to do a survey. I think it can be a little bit shorter than that. And some of the stages can actually overlap, so you don't have to wait until you've done one step before you can go to the next step. But I think it's important to look at all the steps that are involved and keep it in mind when doing your planning, that you cannot say, I'm going to do a survey, and that you expect that 2 weeks from now you will be out in the field doing your survey. Certainly not if it's your first time. If you've done it before, you have a lot of information, you can repeat stuff, you can skip steps that you've done already. But you need to meet with stakeholders, you have to prepare for your activities, you have to do your question design, you circulate it so that everybody agrees on it, you adapt your material, then you draft the interview and supervisor manuals, you print everything, and then you go to the pre-testing, and that is something I will come back to tomorrow, but it's important that you do not design a questionnaire and then you go out in the field and cover all the people that you want to cover, because there are things that you didn't think of, there are things that are not clear. They're clear to you or to the people who designed the question. You go out in the field, people have to answer the question and they say, what do you mean with that? Or what about this answer? It's not in your list. So you run a small test, you do it with a few people, you let them answer the questionnaire. Afterwards you ask them, how did it go? What did you think? Was it easy? Was it difficult? Was it too long? Was it too short? Was there something missing? And then you take the lessons learned, you modify it, and then finally you have your final thing, and then you go out and do your big data collection. And as I said, if you want to do it right, if you have a big country, if you have a lot of people to cover, and you want to make sure that enough people are covered, and then you will find that some people are difficult to reach, so you have to go to some households 2, 3, 4, 5 times to cover the people you want to cover. And then after that you have to process the data, and there can be issues there as well. It can be complicated, it can be mistakes. You have to make maybe some estimations of missing data. You have to correct some errors. Then you have to produce your output, and you can only hope that that will work. So that is actually something that you already should try before. And with fake data, you just fill in some random data in some surveys, and you process the whole thing just to see if your database works, and if your systems work, and if you can actually produce the output that you want to produce. And then you have to write your report and present the results. That may take some time as well. So the whole process, it's not something that is easily done in a month or so. It takes months, and it can take a year for a first survey. So this is all the steps that I showed, that I already mentioned, and where they overlap and how they overlap. And some steps can only be done after you completed one or several previous steps. So there are some specific milestones in the whole project, and you have to make sure that you reach those, or that you don't go too much over them, but at least you can set some target dates for each of the milestones so that you have a good planning of your survey. So, of course, there's our manual. I will say a little bit more about it in the next presentation. And the other mainstay is designing a household survey, samples, practical guidelines. I don't remember, I think it's really from somewhere in the last century, but you know, there's some modern technology to do your surveys, but in the end, it hasn't changed that much. You need to go out, ask questions to people, and then process the data. Documentation. I mentioned this already. This is very important as well. You need to document, document, document. So everything that happens that was unexpected, every problem encountered and the solution found, questions that people had difficulties answering, clearly wrong answers that were given by people. As I said, that is not the fault of the people, at least not if a lot of people do it. If it happens once or twice, then okay, you can ignore it. But if a lot of people make clear mistakes answering to what you thought was obvious, then you have to think about changing all of that. And of course, you have an interviewer this year, but that person may not be your interviewer next year. So those interviewers need to write down what happens and log it and document it so that you learn from it and next time you do it better. Technical reports as well, so that everything that's documented, that you write it up and that you do a little summary of all the steps that you took, how it went, where things went right, where things went wrong, what you can do better in the future. And this is very useful information for the technical people, also for other countries. So you can send it to us, you can present it at an expert meeting on WTIS. But it's also very useful for yourself for a next survey. So here are the references. Oh, it's actually from 2005. I think it's much older and it was updated in 2005. We have our manual from 2014, which we're going to update this year probably. And there's another one, complex survey data analysis with CIS from 2017, that are all references that you can use. So I'm gonna stop here for a moment and see if there's any questions at this point or any comments. If not, then it was either completely clear or completely unclear.
Excuse me.
Yes, please.
I can have some comments, although I know that we're going to discuss them in details tomorrow throughout the different sessions. However, just, on a high level, one comment is related to the distribution of the sample. We know that ITU is collecting based on urban and rural areas. So I would like to hear from countries what is their experiences when it comes to the rural definition. I know that ITU doesn't have guidelines for the rural definitions. We have some experience in Saudi Arabia, but I think neither the NSO nor the Ministry of ICT is, having a clear cut about the what does rural mean. So this is one thing. The other point is related to the household and housing. I mean, the difference between them and where does the ITU refer to when it comes to the results of the household surveys. The other point is related to the IDI. Now, we need to ensure some kind of consistency and comparability between the country's submissions when it comes to the, for example, the results, the penetrations, that is based on surveys. Now, for example, when it comes to internet users, I do, for example, my surveys targeting population between, for example, 15 and 74. Other countries are targeting, for example, 10 to 65. And so on. So at the end of the day, everybody will submit his results, and it is normal that when the more you narrow your sample size, okay, in the mid-age groups, you will get higher results. Okay, so these are kind of different. Okay. I understand that they put the notes or the disclaimers when they submit the data, but at the end of the day, people, that has an impact on the IDI ranking and the IDI results and reports. So nobody look at the notes when it comes to the reports. So this is one of the high-level comments that I'm just raising. Thank you.
Well, first let me see if there's somebody who wants to react to the urban-rural definition. Otherwise, I can say something on all 3 points.
By the way, in Saudi Arabia, there used to be a definition where the rural area is any locality that has a population with less than 5,000. That is not the case right now. For the first time ever, we're trying to cover the rural areas in our ICT household surveys. So I think we have tried to find another, definition. We couldn't, so we're going. Most likely, we're going with the same definition, 5,000 or less.
Yeah. Please.
Thank you. For the definition of the rural areas, I don't know the specific definition, but I think it's clearly defined with the national statistical offices, as in Sudan.
Yeah, this is a difficult question in the sense that there is no harmonized definition, and we therefore leave it to the countries themselves to use the national definition of urban-rural, and many countries have one, but it's impossible to harmonize that one, so we leave that to the countries. So that is, that of course has an impact on comparability, that's absolutely true, but it's also something that is very difficult to harmonize. We could try to get more information from all countries so that we can come up with some kind of recommendations, at least. That's something that we could think about for the next ETAs, for example. Yes? Yes, sure.
Just to comment on the Saudi Arabia question regarding the urban and rural, based on the National Statistics Office in our country, we define urban areas as the areas where the population is higher than 2,500 inhabitants and have at least three of these services, which are electricity, at least one secondary school, one health center at least, and telecom service, at least one telecom service. If they have at least three of these services, then it's considered as an urban area. Otherwise, if it has, for example, two or just one, even though the population is higher than 2,500, then we consider it as a rural area. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very interesting. So this is the type of thing that we could be doing, that we ask all countries in the forum, for example, or we send a simple question. We ask countries to comment on how they define urban-rural, and from there we can maybe come to some kind of, not a standardization, because it's very difficult for countries to change it, or most countries want to stick to it. But for countries that are considering how to do it, they can then look at what most countries are doing and maybe do something based on that. The definition of a household, it will be part of the presentation tomorrow. I think it is something like a number of people, or people living together in a unit, sharing food and sharing accommodation are considered a household. So you can have more than one household in a building or even in a house. But there is a kind of precise definition, and then there's always issues that are very difficult. What do you do with people like nomads that don't have a fixed home but they travel around, etc.? They're difficult to cover anyway. The harmonization, the age cutoff, it used to be 15 to 74 because that's what was being done in mainly European countries, mainly because of legal issues, because some countries didn't have the right to survey children without the consent of the parents. So to avoid that, the age was set at actually 16 to 74. Some did 15 to 74, others 16 to 74. More and more countries did not agree with that idea, especially outside of the developed countries, and wanted more age classes to be covered, and we actually agree with that. So as ITU, we left the age cutoff, and we leave it to the countries, and we recommend that everything is covered. And I know that the IDI is very important for many countries. I think slightly different about that. I think that it's important that you cover what you need to cover for your national purposes. And I think it's important to know what younger people are doing on the internet as well. So I strongly recommend to cover as much as you can in your survey, what is feasible and relevant. Of course, it's not feasible to cover the 0 to 1 years old, because they cannot even answer you. And 5 to 9 may be difficult in most countries, but maybe 10 and plus is possible. It does make a difference in your totals. It doesn't make an enormous difference in your totals. It does make a difference in your total. And then the internet indicator is 8% of the whole IDI. So in the end, the difference in score, there is a difference in score, but it's not enormous. I know that countries are very worried about their ranking, but I think it's more important to worry about your development in your country and do what is right, rather than try to increase your ranking as much as possible and then not having the right information that your policymakers actually might be needing. Are there any other questions? If not, I will not let you go. I will start already with the first part of my presentation tomorrow, so that we can all go on a city trip tomorrow afternoon after lunch. So if you can put up my next presentation, please. So let's look at the indicators that we want to cover in our survey. So we have the manual. We mentioned it a number of times already. Other countries have mentioned it as well. It's a manual that was revised in 2014. It has an introduction, then a chapter on coordination, which I kind of presented, then a chapter on planning and preparation, which I presented as well already. Then a chapter on statistical standards, which is what I'm going to do now. Then a chapter on data sources and collection techniques, questionnaire design, designing household surveys, which is of course strongly linked, data processing, data quality, and dissemination. And everything as of chapter 4 is covered in this presentation. Not extensively everything, but it's all here. So it was first released in 2009, and the second version was launched at the WTIS in 2013. After that, in the 2014 manual, there's indicators HH1 until 15. Then HH16 was added and still in the manual, but 17, 18, and 19, they're not yet in the manual, but they are on our website. Then there's a number of revisions made to some of the indicators, and that's all reflected on the ITU website, but it's high time that we put it all together and put it back in the manual. And also in a way that it becomes easier for people just to go, instead of going to the manual, download the manual, and then look up the right page in the manual, they just can go on our website and navigate to the indicator they're interested in and get the whole methodological information for that indicator. So that's our plan for this year, and it may run over a little bit in next year. So the standards for IST household statistics, and we call it household statistics, but in reality it's access of households and use by individuals. But if every time you have to say household and individuals, you spend a lot of time for nothing. So I say it once, that household statistics actually means both, and almost more the individual part than the household part. So we have statistical terms, standards associated with the concept, the definitions, the model questions, the classificatory variables, meaning the breakdowns, the scope, and the units are households and individuals. And then in the manual we also have how to do your calculations, what are the formula, and the use of the indicator. So, I mention it again, households have access, individuals use or own, use the equipment and the services. I added ownership because now we have the question on ownership of a mobile phone, which is a new indicator, that normally ownership would be part of the household part, but since mobile phones have become so individual, that's important to also know about people having a mobile phone, because more than one person in the household usually has a mobile phone. So it has turned into something shared, into something more individual. So that's why there's the question on individual ownership of a mobile phone. So the concept of access. It's a device or a service that should be available for use of any member of the household at any time. The device can be owned or not by the household, and this applies to all the indicators referring to household ICT access. And the device, or the service of course, should be in a working condition. So if the question is, does your household have a TV? Then it's important that the TV actually works and not standing in the basement broken. That anybody can switch it on at any time, except during dinner, of course, and that everybody is allowed to watch it. So for the internet connection, for example, that it's available for all the people in the house to use, or the phone for that matter. Of course, you can put restrictions on how much time your children can use the internet. That is normal, but it still means that the household has access. You just restricted it from for a pedagogical reason, not for any other reason. So these are the indicators. There are 19 on this slide, and we will go through them one by one. Out of the 19 indicators, 3 are needed for the SDGs, the proportion of individuals using the internet, the individuals with ICT skills by type of skills, and the proportion of individuals owning a mobile phone. These 3 are needed for the IDI as well. And in addition, the IDI has the proportion of households with a computer, the proportion of individuals using a computer, and that's it. Right? Yeah, 5 indicators. So 3 for the SDGs and 3 plus 2 for the IDI. So indicator 1 is the proportion of households with a radio. I don't think I have to define this. This is, again, is there a radio in the household? Can anybody listen to it at any time? And does the radio work? And then if you want to know what the definition is of radio, it's all there. I mean, you can argue about listening to the radio over the internet, but that's more internet use. Then we go to television. Same idea. A television set is typically a standalone device, but it may also be integrated with another device, such as a computer or a mobile telephone. Okay, I have to think about that one. This is a rather surprising definition, I would say. Proportion of households with telephone. So this is changed a little bit. It's the proportions of households that have a telephone in the house. It's not necessarily or only a fixed phone. It can also be a mobile phone. So is there a phone in the house, and can anybody use it? So if there's only a mobile phone in the household and not everybody can use it, then this should be a no. All these indicators, they are becoming a little bit old. Now this one is still an important one, the proportion of households with a computer. It's one that we use in the IDI because a computer is still an important means of accessing the internet, and it also will allow you to do a number of things that are more complicated on a mobile phone, for example. If you want to create a PowerPoint presentation, doing that on your mobile phone or even on a tablet, it's a hassle. If you want to do some computer programming, writing some do some coding, to do that on your mobile phone or on a tablet, it's a bit of a hassle, and a computer is really much more convenient for that. So this is still an important indicator. Computers include desktops, laptops, and tablets. And that's where it stops. It does not include smart TV, for example, that has some embedded computing abilities, and it does not include smartphones. I have a lot of arguments about this. We collect that as well. So that you restrict it and exclude smartphones doesn't mean that smartphones are not important. It means it's a different indicator. Then we go to the proportion of individuals using a computer. The usage aspect is actually always in the last 3 months. It used to be in the last 12 months, and in the last 3 months for some indicators, it has been simplified to meaning usage. Somebody has used something, the internet or a computer or a mobile phone, if this has happened in the last 3 months. And then computer still has the same definition. The proportion of households with internet. So this is the proportion of households with internet access at home. There's a definition of internet. It means the open internet, so you should be able to access everything that is available on the internet, so not walled garden or anything, or only specific applications and not other ones. Access can be via a fixed or a mobile network. So if in the household there are a number of mobile phones that all have a data plan and everybody can use the phone to access the internet, then that means the household does have internet access. They don't need to have a fixed broadband connection or a computer. There are other ways of accessing the internet in the house. The proportion of individuals using the internet. Now, we discussed it already briefly before. This is a very important indicator, one of the flagship indicators, I would say. It's used in the SDGs, it's used in the IDI. ITU uses it a lot in their communication strategy, and the Broadband Commission that says connecting the other half. So we're talking about, it's a bit misleading because we are talking about using, not access, but using, and connecting sounds more like access, but in the end it comes down to the same thing. The proportion of individuals using the internet. So the question is 2 people in a survey. It's the question to individuals. In the last 3 months, did you use the internet? Doesn't matter where you used it, at school, at work, at home, on the street, in a cafe, in an internet cafe, wherever, but in the last 3 months, did you use the internet? It also doesn't matter how you accessed it, on the phone, on a tablet, on your computer, or whatever, as long as it was the open internet. We have a definition of the internet, and as long as you used the internet in the last 3 months. This, sometimes, we're going to discuss this in EGH. Sometimes you need to explain the internet to the survey respondent as well, because they said, no, I haven't used the internet. Okay, have you used Facebook? Yeah. Have you used WhatsApp? Yes, of course. Instagram? Yes, I did. Okay, how? So, but that goes over the internet. Oh, really? Yes. So you nowadays you actually have to explain what the internet is. Then the next question is, okay, so you use the internet. Okay, now we want to know where you use the internet. And then the options are, and this has been revised, slightly revised at last EGH meeting. So we now have the following categories. Where did you use it? At home, at work, at the place of education, and that means students. So it doesn't mean that I was picking up my children and I was waiting in the school and I used the Wi-Fi of the school to check the internet. That doesn't mean that I used it at a place of education. at another person's home. And then we have something that we have simplified. We call it now facility open to the public. Before we had public facilities and private facilities, but then it becomes very complicated because you go to the mall, and it used to be, you know, you go to an internet cafe, you have to pay for your access. You go to a community center, and it was free access, and the distinction was often between paying and free. But now you go to Starbucks, you get a coffee, and you go on the free Wi-Fi of Starbucks. Yes, it's a facility open to the public. It's a commercial facility, but the internet is free. Or you go to the airport, you use the free Wi-Fi at the airport. And what is the airport? Because some countries the airport is a government facility, but you don't actually perceive it as such. I mean, for me the airport is a place where you take a plane. I don't think of it as belonging to the government, or maybe not belonging to the government. And I use the airport here, and I don't even know if the airport if it's private or public. So the private-public, paying, non-paying became far too complicated. So we simplified it all and said, in a facility open to the public. Now, in your country, you may be actually very interested in the paying versus non-paying, in the public versus private, and you can actually list it, because for your country, you know. We don't know it for your country, and even if for your country it's one thing, for the next country it's another thing. So in your own survey, you should do what you think is the right thing to do and the information you want to know. And then for us, when you send the data to ITU, you just aggregate it all up, and that's it. So that's something you have to think about also when doing the survey. Now, there is still one subcategory of that, which are the community internet access facilities, because this is still in one of the resolutions of ITU, and community internet access is still important for people to access the internet. So when we collect those indicators, it's still a facility open to the public, of course, so it's just one subcategory of that. And if you want to have 7 other subcategories, that is absolutely fine. You do that as long as you also include the community internet access so that we can get the information. And then the last category also has been simplified a little bit and clarified a little bit. It's while commuting, in transport or walking. Because before it was called when mobile, and that led to confusion because people thought that it's when using the mobile to access the internet. No, it will often be the case, but that's not what we're looking for. It's about the location. So you are commuting, you are coming home, you're in the bus, you pick up your phone and you start browsing the internet. You're commuting. You're out in the street shopping and you check something on the internet. You're walking in the street. You're in transport, as I said, you're in the train. You're in the car going to work. Do not use the internet. That's not allowed. That's dangerous. So this was a revision done in 2018 where we have made it simplifying things and clarifying things. But in essence, they didn't change a whole lot. Let me see. We are at indicator 8. I think tomorrow we continue with indicator 9. So I don't know if there are any immediate questions now. Please.
In regards to household access to internet, if the household get shared access with the neighbor household, should we consider this household having internet access? If the household have a shared internet from the neighbor. So
it's not the first time I get this question. And although I don't think it really matters, but they are paying for it together, for example. Are they paying for it together?
Yes, they are paying share, for example, 50% or whatever.
Yes, I mean, it may not be legal according to the country, or the operator may not be happy.
Yeah. But they can access.
They have access.
Yeah.
It's in working condition.
Yeah.
And everybody can use it. Yes. So yes, they can use it. This is a clear case where you have to make sure that the confidentiality is protected, because if they're doing something that is maybe not 100% approved by the operators and the country, you still want them to answer truthfully.
Yeah.
So yes, they have access and they can use it. So yes.
Good. Congratulations. And
yes. Yes. Okay. Can you switch off? No. Can I switch off?
Yes, thank you. One question regarding the same, the household access to the internet. Now, it is mentioned in the definition that access includes fixed or mobile, and that, up to my understanding, the access doesn't necessarily mean the subscription or usage of the internet.
Yes.
Okay, so it's just an access. Now, we have two messages now. We receive the coverage indicator from the supply side, from the operators, where it say, for example, that the, I would say in Saudi Arabia, the 3G coverage for all populated areas is around 98%. Okay? Which means that all, or 98% of the populated areas are covered by 3G. Now, when we do the surveys, and we ask the houses or the households whether they have an access to the internet or no, the percentage is a bit lower than that. Which one is the more accurate and reliable things? Shall we consider all those who covered by 3G are having access to the internet or not?
No, no, these are two different indicators. The coverage indicators is potential access, and the access indicator is actual access. If I don't have a mobile phone, I don't have a fixed telephone or a fixed broadband subscription at home. Basically, if I don't want to use the internet or cannot afford it, I don't have a subscription, fixed or mobile, and nobody does in my household. I go home, I know that the internet is there, I just don't have the means to access it because I don't have the subscription, I don't have the service. I'm not paying for the service, I don't have the service, I cannot access the internet, even if potentially I could. If I just had the money or the will to pay for it, then I could, but I didn't. So it's two different indicators, potential access and actual access. And then the next one is actual use, which can still be different. And the use is individual and the access is household.
Thank you very much. I think it's time to close the working part of our second day. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, everyone, for participating and for being patient and engaged. Hope you are not too exhausted. So first announcement is that we have dinner again, kindly hosted by the ministry, and same way we meet at 6:30 here downstairs. So there will be a bus that will take us to the restaurant. The restaurant is different, but we will go there by bus again. And the second announcement is we would like to ask everyone to start tomorrow at 9, right?
Yes.
Yeah, to start tomorrow at 9, we would like to start our work at 9, so we could finish by lunch. So please kindly join us tomorrow at 9 and also for the evening reception as well. So thank you very much and have some rest. Thank you.